Here we are in western Namibia. The air is peaceful. The birds are chirping.
We're having the time of our lives. Okay. I obviously slept too much last night. I'm making campfire coffee or braai-side coffee. And we're heading off to Etosha to do some wildlife photography. I'm challenging myself on today's video to do wildlife photography on a 70 to 200 millimeter in a place where the animals are really far away.
And we'll get to that. But first, today's video is sponsored by Squarespace.com. Squarespace is an awesome place for photographers, or anyone really, to build a professional looking website really quickly. There are a lot of community-driven aspects that go beyond building the website as well. For example, you can make a gated community area to both earn revenue and connect with your audience. And if you're looking to streamline your photography business, there are loads of options to integrate third-party e-commerce programs, which allow you to take payments, manage inventory, promote products, and even streamline your bookkeeping and accounting. Of course, all of this is a bonus beyond the beautiful and easy-to-use Squarespace website templates they're known for. So, head to squarespace.com/BrendanVanson for a 10% discount on your first purchase.
Nice. Other side. Nice. You're doing good. Doing good, Neil. Now you gotta rub it in because I don't have two hands. I'm holding the gimbal. Oh, wow.
See you in Etosha, Bethany.
Look at how dirty my feet are. Anyway, we are pulling into Etosha, and I'm going to regret this decision within 5 minutes of being here. But I am doing this whole video on the 70 to 200. So this big beauty, the 100 to 400,
is going on my camera.
It's going on Greg's camera. Are you really going to borrow it?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Oh, you don't have something longer, right?
I have the 70-200.
What if I need this as backup?
And by the way, I've been getting great wildlife photos on the 70-200 for a long time, so I don't think it's too much of a challenge.
It's a challenge. Yeah, honestly, I find that in Etosha, you really want about 400 to 500 millimeters for really good stuff, so I'm going to regret this for sure. But yeah, let's do it anyway. Heading into the park with this little stubby dude. And I'm not talking about Greg. To say you can't do wildlife photography on a 70 to 200 millimeter lens is crazy. But in places like Etosha, the best photographs are often a really long ways away. Last year I was using a 500 millimeter lens and at times a 2x extender to get 1,000 millimeters. 600 millimeters is kind of ideal. So I'm about a third the distance I want. But thankfully, the first bits of wildlife we see are fairly close up. Then, we spotted something I really wish I had a longer lens for. A cheetah, 2 cubs, and a kill. This clip is at 200 millimeters. This one at 400. And these ones are at 400 millimeters with a 4K crop, so 800 millimeters. Greg might claim you can get good photos with a 70 to 200. He's not wrong, but with wildlife photography, size does matter. At 200 millimeters, there's no impact to the image, only an environmental portrait.
Think of that.
That was crazy. Just pop your engine. There's a booted eagle, I believe it's a booted eagle, up in this tree right now, and having a 70 to 200 is kind of forcing me to try to be creative, so I'm doing environmental portraits. But sometimes it's just not enough. The 70 to 200
does create some cool images, but sometimes it just doesn't do exactly what I was hoping to do. We just had the coolest experience I've had in Etosha in a long time. The first time I've ever seen a cheetah in Etosha, and there was 2 cubs and a kill. And I was a little bit, you know, a little bit too short here. A little bit too short at 200. I could do some environmental portrait stuff, but I definitely had to cheat a little bit and borrow my good buddy John Leon Guerra's new RF 100 to 500, which is actually really, really good for this sort of safari, especially when there's lots of light like this. So yeah, the 200 wasn't sufficient, thanks John, wasn't sufficient for, you know, everything, but there still was a photo. It wasn't like I didn't capture anything because of 200, and I can probably crop in a bit as well. So a little bit, not enough, but enough. We pushed through the park heading to Halali Camp, our base for the next nights. On the way, there was a rhino and a calf. Again, 200mm just isn't enough lens. Then nearing the camp, we came across a herd of zebras in an epic fight. At 600mm, this would have been a brilliant capture. But again, the lack of length is leaving me feeling a bit deflated. As is Neil's tire.
Just pulled over to use the bathroom and realized there was a tire blown. So, 2 for 2.
A lion literally just bit Neil's tire.
It was amazing.
Just came out of nowhere, bit it. They get kicked up with sand in the front end.
Morals.
Why did I wear a white t-shirt today?
Have a look. Hey, oh, good job, Neil. Awesome.
I have to put it down now.
Is it hot or not so much?
Hopefully we don't get attacked by a bunch of lions. This is about the time right now.
Well, you know it is the time.
After fixing Neil's tire, we pushed on through the early evening light. We found some elephants. At 200mm, they're much easier to photograph. You know, because they're big. But then as the sun was hitting the horizon, we saw something else I couldn't reach. Lions. At 200mm, I can't even find the lions in this frame. At 800mm, they're right there.
Beautiful sunrise, and we're about to do our second day of game driving. I don't know how I feel about taking photos with the 70-200 on safari. I feel like I don't have enough range, but at the same time I feel like it's been sufficient. I feel like those birds are really loud. I feel like the only time that it's really been a massive disadvantage so far is in the situation where there was the horses fighting, the zebras fighting, and the cheetahs. Every other time I don't feel like I've missed anything. Maybe the lions way off in the distance, but I think they were too far for a great photo anyway. So right now I feel like I'm not missing anything with the 70-200-ish, other than the cheetahs and the zebra.
What's you doing?
This is what happens when your grinder breaks on the road. You resort to smashing them with a hammer.
And what's our end result there, hey man?
I just need to bash it a bit more, but I think we'll be in cold brew heaven soon enough for tomorrow's adventure on the road.
So this is what happens. I work on the coffee media, social media. The coffee business is social media, which is Neil's job, actually. And Neil's making coffee, which is, I guess, Greg's job. And Greg is literally just effing around.
With freshly bashed coffee in our veins, we hit the dusty roads of Etosha once again. Our first stop was to see if the lions were closer to the road. They weren't. They were just far enough away and with a zebra to make me feel heavy amounts of lens envy. But with the morning glow hitting the Namibian savanna, there were other things to photograph. A Cory bustard. A white rhino. Elephants. It's the last afternoon in Etosha with the 70-200. I thought one of the big advantages would be having f2.8, being able to have that sexy bokeh, but the reality is when you're at 200 at f2.8 or 400 at f5.6, the amount of bokeh is relatively similar, so it hasn't been that much of an advantage. I will say I think it's made me take less photos, because often I would use that 400 reach and just make a photo because there was the opportunity, whereas now I'm only taking a photo if I know it's a good one. And I know that's kind of just experience in general with wildlife photography, but I think the 70-200 has definitely let me focus more on this trip. But I won't lie to you and tell you that I'm not looking to have 400mm on the next safari. Generally on a 3-day trip to Etosha, I walk away with about 2,000 images to edit. This time, I had less than 500. And though I didn't get lions or cheetahs or martial eagles, I got some cool photos. In fact, this photograph wouldn't have happened with a longer lens. And I've been coming to this tree for a decade hoping for a scene like this to evolve. Back at the lodge, we walked up to the waterhole for sunset, and in the fading light I found a really good reason for a 70-200 f2.8 lens. In the low light, I was able to capture 2 really cool images to round off a really fun trip to Etosha.
The conclusion on the 70-200, and the question of can you do wildlife photography on a 70-200? Of course you can do wildlife photography on a 70-200. You can do wildlife photography on a 15-35. Sure, you gotta work your creativity a little bit more, but you definitely can do it. Now, as to the question of whether you can use a 70-200 on safari, again, yes. But I do believe you do want some more reach. And next time I head into the park, I will be using that 100-400 and not the 70-200. So read into that what you may, and I'll see you next time. Peace.